Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Carol join us today. And Carol, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here with you and sharing time with you and everyone out in Facebook land.
There you go. I love it. And I didn't say this before we came on live, but there's something very familiar about you to me. Like maybe we've met before, or maybe it's somebody that has very similar energy, like you do. But I was curious about that. But I feel like we've met some prior life or something.
Well, great for you for bringing that up because actually when we came on this morning, when we came on onto Zoom, I looked at you and I thought, yes, there is something familiar about you. I can't, just where was it? But I think we have been somewhere at some point, whether whether this life or maybe another life, wherever, you and I have met before. I know we have. Yes, there is just something there. And I'll go away saying, where was it? And eventually it'll pop up and say, oh, that is where it was.
Yeah, it could have been an event or something. Who knows?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's always interesting because it doesn't always happen very often for me anymore. Um, so yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Oh,
Um, so thank you for being here with us. So to get started, and for the group to get to know you better, if you could tell us a little bit about your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
well, thank you for that. My story. Well, I will begin my story at a pivotal point in time where, in essence, I began to uncover or unleash the naked leader in me. And that was the day that I admitted to myself I was in deep trouble because I was in the midst of a major burnout. And my doctor said to me that day when I called to say, this is what's happened to me. I've driven 300 some kilometers. And yes, that's Canadian speak. Totally consciously unconscious, not really knowing that I was driving. And what was scary was that I was in the far north on mountain highways. And driving mountain highways is completely different than driving a straight highway. But my doctor said to me that day, Carol, if you don't deal with this, I'll make you deal with it. And it was, oh, what do you mean? And it was, I'll put you in the hospital and I will make you deal with this life that you've lived from birth till now. You've lived in high stress. Your body can't handle it anymore. So either you deal with it or I'll make you deal with it.
Well,
That took 20 seconds of courage for me to say to myself and then out loud, my life must change. I can't do this anymore. And at that moment, I committed to myself and to the universe that I needed to figure out who I was. And that was at a very, deep, dark period of time because in that whole moment, I also lost my dream job. Um, and my mental health was in tatters, my physical health was in tatters, but I was also a single mom, and I needed to be there for my children. And it was a point of rebuilding everything in me. The one gift that did come out of that was that I was also in the midst of completing my thesis for my Master's of Public Administration. And I have no idea how I managed to write my thesis. The divine obviously helped me, but I got it done. in a 3-month period, I got it done and I got my master's. But what led up to that burnout was really, on one hand, a beautiful childhood of growing up on a farm and learning to lead with turkeys and horses, but also there was a dark side where I was sexually assaulted by a neighbor over a 6-year period, and no one stepped forward to help. And so that shut me down, closed my heart. And as a result of that, I became a workaholic. I felt unworthy. I felt that I wasn't enough. And I also then stepped into a violence-filled marriage. And that, I was blessed with 4 beautiful children, but in essence, the violence just escalated to a point one day where the message was, well, Carol, we can fix our marriage. I will shoot you and I will commit suicide, and that will be the end of our marriage. And I knew I needed to get out. But even then, there was still this part in me that, well, you just need to prove to the world, Carol, that you can make it. And then subsequently, my body just said, no more. You need to take care of you. So, Burnout Day was the beginning of my journey of naked leadership and discovering who I was and discovering that one must learn to lead themselves before they can lead others, regardless of what it is, who you are, that you're stepping into. But lead yourself and others will follow. And that really has been my journey and getting to that point of really launching the Naked Leadership Institute and coaching as a narrative leadership coach and consultant. But truly, truly, it really is uncovering the authentic, vulnerable, real you or real me. And I encourage each and every one of us, everyone listening on the call, is take that plunge. It may be scary, but it's also exciting.
That's so beautiful. And what keeps coming up for me when I was listening to you talk is, talking about leading yourself, but what does that encompass, leading yourself? Because the word that keeps coming up is worthiness, that you're worthy.
And great question. And yes, leading oneself is coming to that place of discovering that you are worthy. So, in essence, it's coming to that place of accepting who you are. Just accept who you are, the beautiful you. This is not about being like a Barbie doll. This is about being you, coming with your, what? Perhaps with the wrinkles, perhaps with a pound or two more than your body needs, or maybe it's a pound or two under what your body needs, but it's coming with who you are. And also learning to lead yourself is about that self-care. So when you accept yourself, you accept who you are in all of who you are. And when you do that, then you really truly are worthy. You are worthy of who you are. You've always been worthy,
Right.
right from the get-go. So it's standing in that, accepting who you are and being in gratitude for who you are, because each one of us comes with special gifts. My gifts are different than yours.
Right.
And so they should be, because that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes the energy connect. So yes, that truly is accept yourself. You are worthy, every aspect of you.
Well, how did you come up with the title Naked Leadership?
That actually came to me one day as I was in the Seattle airport some years ago, getting ready to fly to Orlando, Florida. And I was walking in the airport. I had checked in, walking in the airport, and this word, naked leader, just came, it just came flying through me. And it was, what does that mean?
I,
What does that mean? And really and truly, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it.
right? Yeah.
And then it was the discovery of, well, naked. Yes, really get naked. It's not on the outside. You keep your clothes on. You get naked on the inside. And that really is quite the journey. So that's how it came about. And the more I discover who I am, the more naked I get on the inside. And to me, that discovery is a lifelong discovery. And you get to the core of who you are. And really, for me, that is heart-centered because the heart is the central power of who we are. The brain, magnificent, magnificent computer that we are all given, and it leads us everywhere. But in essence, the longest journey that you and I will ever take is what a Sioux chief said is the longest journey you will take is 18 inches from the top of your head to your heart. So in essence, that's where naked leadership came from. And the evolving of leader is really and truly, who are you? Yeah.
Yeah, the image that comes to mind is peeling away the layers of the false identities that have been put on us or that we have taken on in interpretation of what we're experiencing.
Yes, absolutely. Another way of, yes, the masks we put on or the barriers we erect given circumstances at a certain point in time, and then we keep those as protection or to feel secure or to think that we have self-esteem or confidence. And quite frankly, no, get, move those aside and really begin to discover, who am I? What
It
is,
brings me to on your Facebook page, I noticed you had that famous quote from Marianne Williamson from A Return to Love. And
yes,
just that first sentence, I always forget how it starts, but it's not our fear
well,
that
yeah,
scares us, it's our light.
it's our light. That's right. And truthfully, she she knew what she was writing when she wrote that because in essence, I can describe it from um, another way of going from boxed to bold, and bold is our light. And to step into our light, that is phenomenal. I mean, it's like the light behind you. It's this beautiful light yellow, it looks like maybe there's some flowers in it, but it's radiating. And so each of us, we all have that opportunity. That's all inside of us is radiate your light instead of living in that box, and pulling the lid down. Yep, it's a scary adventure to allow that light to shine. It is. But when you flick the switch, you are amazed at what is within you that then shines outwardly.
It
It's,
is, and it's just a decision away, isn't it?
yes, it's make that decision. For me, it was at And that 20 seconds of insane courage. Okay, make the decision that you need to discover who you are. And that's what it is. And the power of decision is impactful. Yes, it's a choice, but it still is make the decision now. Yeah. And then move with it.
When I listen in, and I was guilty of this for many years, and when I listen to a lot of women, there's a lot of how do you say it, flagellation, self condemnation. Um, how would you suggest that somebody on this journey, how do they move from that place to the next step for them?
May I share a story with you?
Of course, yes.
I'll share a story of a client that I had several years ago. And when she came to me, it was the first two times we met. She sat and cried. And my inner being said, just let her cry. And she would cry and she would get up and leave. When she contacted me the third time, I said, okay, I'll meet with you. And she came back in and she sat down and she started to cry. And so in essence, that was her get to go, so to speak, of she was stuck in wherever she was stuck. And again, just sitting with her. And at one point, the words came out of my mouth and it basically was, so when are you going to stop running? And instantly, instantly, the tears stopped. And she sat up straight in her chair, and her back, I could just see it was just rigid. And she looked at me and she said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, think about it. Give that some thought. And while you're doing that, you might want to change your shoes. He said, you have always worn runners in the times that I have seen you. Well, I always wear runners. Said, give that some thought. She stood up and she left. And I thought, okay, I probably won't ever hear from her again. 3 months later, she called me and she said, I want to come and see you because I have something to share with you. I said, okay, come. We agreed to meet at a certain time. She walked in, she walked into my office, she sat down and she put her foot up and she said, see, I'm now wearing walking shoes. And I said, yay, yay. And she said, and I have to also share with you, since we last met, I have signed up for college. I'm going back to upgrade my skills. I now have my own apartment. And thirdly, I've gone to the court and petitioned to have joint custody of my child. And I looked at her and I just went, yay. And I said, it's amazing what you can do when you shift from running shoes to walking shoes. And she said, yes, and there's one more thing. I said, and what's that? She said, I have signed up for counseling to deal with issues from my past. And I said, bless you. So getting back to your question, what can we do when we find ourselves in that place of darkness or funk or stuckness or whatever words we want to use to describe, is find one little tiny light that will give you that opening. And that one tiny light may be someone saying something to you, such as, when are you going to change your shoes? Or it could be listening for a word that comes, or it might be just a thought that comes through your mind. I mean, all of those are about choice. All of those are about making a decision. And I will use my example and the doctor. I could have just said, doctor, put me in the hospital. And in essence, refuse to take responsibility for who I am. And for all and everyone listening today, you have greatness inside of you. You are worthy. So if you're in that place of funk, give yourself permission to take one step beyond it and see what it feels like. And you might step back, but take a second step because you do have the courage inside of you to do it. I know you do.
It's true. I do too. And we've both are living proof of that.
Yes, we are. We absolutely are. And it may be, it may unveil itself in a completely different way than you thought it might. However, be open to it. Be open to it. Be open to you because you deserve it.
What comes to mind too is how I think about it and what I did for years in my younger life. It was like I was giving my power away without realizing it or understanding what I was doing. Um, whether it be the perpetrators or the stories about my parents or the conditions in my life. And it was like, when you make that decision, it's like, okay, I mean, I didn't say it in those terms, but it was like, okay, I'm taking my power back. I'm
Yeah.
done being a victim. I'm done playing small and really opening up. We talked about that light that Marianne Williamson talks about, and it can feel very scary. Who am I, and am I worthy, and all those things come up. But to know that it happens for all of us, I found comfort in realizing that it just seems to be part of the human experience, and that it's within all of us to get back to that place of before all the layers were put on to let our light shine.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, what has that happening or why does that happen? And again, and it can happen from a very early age, how we take on those or put on those masks or those barriers or, those clothes that keep us, we think they're keeping us shielded, but in essence, they're not because it's on the inside that has been impacted, our thoughts, our heart, our mind, our whole body has been impacted. And, you know, what has that happening? Why does that happen? I don't know. That's part and parcel of our journey. But it's when we realize that, when we realize and can step through the fog or the funk and begin to discover who we are, all of those experiences and those life lessons really help shape the character of who we are. And, it took me some time to work through all of that and to see that my journey of, as a child, those experiences of sexual assault, the violence-filled marriage, And yes, oh, by the way, 9 motor vehicle accidents, all of that really has, as I began to uncover and derobe who I was and who I am, that has helped me to be me right here, right now. So, in essence, yeah, it's a journey. And the journey is, it's like walking through the mountains. You get to the top of a mountain, well, then you come back down, but then you go back up. And it's those experiences that you get to be you. And then that does shine your light.
That's
And
so
to shine that
beautiful.
light for yourself and for others. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what is it you do today?
Well, today I am as I refer to, I'm the boss of Leadership Institute. And today, what I do is I am a narrative leadership coach and also a consultant. And I'm also a professional speaker. And today, I am very passionate about life in harmony and the feminine and the masculine energies really stepping forward and reclaiming, yes, reclaiming who those energies are and walking in parallel with each other because that is harmony, that brings harmony. And so, in essence, um, I'll bring forward a project I'm working on, and that is to create more services for men and families impacted by domestic violence. I've spent 18 plus years working in the field, leading organizations that provide services, anti-violence services for women and children. But in essence, bringing harmony, it really is calling about the feminine and the masculine reclaiming their energies. And that, I mean, we could talk about that for days. That's where I'm at, and I'm very passionate, about, reclaim the inner power. This isn't about power and control out here. This is about the innate power that we each have inside of us, and we are powerful.
Beyond measure. That's beautiful. So, if somebody wanted to learn more about naked leadership and the services and what you do, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch with me 2 ways. They can go to my website, which is carolmetzmurray.com. They can also find me at LinkedIn as Carol Metz Murray and send me an email, send me a request to connect, and we will connect for a discovery call and have a conversation, discover where you're at, and move move life forward for you and for me. So that's really the 2 best places that they can find people can find me at.
Well, we'll be sure to put that in the comments for anybody who resonates with Carol and her message and what she's about so that you can get in touch with her. I can't thank you enough for being with us today, Carol. It's it's just heartfelt. I really feel it strongly. And so before we go, are there any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us today?
My parting words of wisdom for everyone is yes, lead yourself and lead others. But my parting words are additionally are in a form of a question. And really that question to you is, who can you be to lead your most extraordinary life. Let your light shine. Move from boxed to being bold.
That's beautiful. That well, this has been so amazing, and I know I can feel we could go on for another hour
Yes.
easily,
Yes.
easily. Well, we'll have to work on that. I have a sense I could see some amazing workshops coming up in the group if that's something that aligns with you, because I would love to hear more about um, naked leadership and how someone can step into their authentic full self that's always been there waiting for us, right?
Right. And I see not some, I see possibilities here. I really do. I see synergies. So yes, and that is one of the beautiful things too of naked leadership, of life is connection. We all need connection. So yes, let's stay connected. And to everyone out in Facebook land, yes, find connections, find the love and support that helps you be you. We are that's part of who we are. Connection is critical.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.